Good evening, everyone. My name is Candace Thompson Zachary, Manager of Justice, Equity, and Inclusion Initiatives at Dance NYC. My pronouns are she, her, and I identify as a non-disabled Black West Indian woman. I have an auburn pinned back fro. I'm wearing a mustard top with a red background with bookshelves. I have been working and living on Lenape-Hoking territory for 15 years now. First, thank you for joining us for this digital experience. And as we are at the mercy of technology, we want to remind you that there may be delays, sound issues, sirens driving outside of my door, and changing circumstances that may occur during our time together. Please extend us grace and patience as we manage this virtual landscape. Second, we have ASL interpretation by Sarah Ahn and Brandon Kazan Maddox from LC Interpreting Services, as well as closed captioning services provided by Cara Dugas of the Viscardi Center that will be available throughout the entire event. We will also post speaker information in the comment section of the Facebook Live. Third, feel free to post in the comment section on Facebook with questions you may have for the speakers. We will be gathering them throughout and during the entire event. We will present the most relevant questions that time will allow. If we don't get to your question, we will try to respond directly. Fourth, in case we need to end the session quickly due to disruption, have no fear. You will hear us say abort 3 times and then we'll end the session. We'll resume within 5 minutes on Facebook Live. And lastly, we hope that you help us to amplify these conversations. So hit that share arrow at the top of the live so that you can post it on your feed so other people see what we're talking about and engage with our conversation. Repost, tag us, and share your takeaways on Twitter at DanceNYC, Instagram at dance.nyc, and Facebook at dance/NYC using the hashtag artists are necessary workers, hashtag DanceNYC Live. And now we'll begin Arts Educators Leading the Charge, part of our Artists Are Necessary Workers Facebook Live conversation series. As a way of deepening our work and learning in racial justice, we regularly practice land acknowledgements at meetings and public convenings to recognize our country's violent history and its legacy in the space we occupy. This practice is currently under development with the guidance of Indigenous dance artist and activist Emily Johnson to ensure that we embody this allyship. This includes taking actionable steps towards reparations in this initial instance by nurturing relationships with local Indigenous and First Nations artists and organizations, and making pathways for Lenape artists and leaders to return to Lenape-Hoking today. I would like to acknowledge that the city of New York is on stolen land, more specifically, Lenape-Hoking, the unceded homeland of the Lenape people, who are also recognized federally as the Delaware Nation of Oklahoma, Anadarko, Oklahoma, Delaware Tribe of Indians, Bartlesville, Oklahoma, Stockbridge Munsee Community, Bowler, Wisconsin, and in Canada, Munsee Delaware Nation, Moravian of the Thames First Nation, Delaware of Six Nations. The Lenape people are the original inhabitants and caretakers of this land and gave Manhattan Island its name, Mannahatta, meaning hilly island or place where we go to gather the wood for the bows. Additionally, as we are gathered digitally and inspired by Adrian Wong of Spiderweb Show in what is currently called Canada, I invite us to consider the legacy of colonization embedded within the technologies, structures, and ways of thinking we use every day. We are using equipment and high-speed internet not available in many rural Indigenous communities that at times leave significant carbon footprints, contributing to climate change that disproportionately impacts rural Indigenous communities worldwide. We acknowledge that changing these inequities are our shared responsibility, as are our roles in reconciliation, decolonization, and allyship. We recognize that as an organization based in New York City, we have benefited and continue to benefit from the systemic displacement and subsequent erasure of Lenape people and governance on their land. Please join me in taking a moment to recognize and reflect on the centuries of violence, displacement, forced migration, and settlement here, as well as the centuries of resilience and leadership of all Indigenous and First Nations peoples on Turtle Island that have led to our presence and livelihoods in New York City today. Let's take a moment of silence. Thank you. Continuing our practice of recognition, we would like to name openly the legacies of the African slave trade, migration and immigration patterns, the disability rights and disability justice movements, and the LGBTQ fight for justice. These areas and tactics of oppression through which white supremacy and settler colonialism have enacted and sustained its power over time are not the only areas, but rather the main focuses of Dance NYC's ongoing historical acknowledgement practice and justice, equity, and inclusion strategy. We would also like to take a moment of silence in remembrance of the victims of COVID-19 around the world and to honor the unseen labor of the many people that continue to ensure the safety and well-being of our community in these trying times, including but not limited to frontline workers. Thank you. And about Dance NYC, for those new to our organization and its work, Dance NYC delivers 5 core services for the field: advocacy, action-oriented research, leadership training and convening, technological resources through our website, and grant making, all to empower dance makers and cultural workers, build audiences, and strengthen the collective voice of the art form. Created as an independent nonprofit in 2013, Dance NYC works in alliance with the national organization Dance USA to drive local national synergies in dance service delivery. You can learn more about our programs on our website, dance.nyc. So the reason we're here today, as some of you know, Dance NYC launched a new campaign on May 14th, declaring loudly that artists are necessary workers. This campaign demands the acknowledgement, representation, and integration of dance and arts workers into the decision-making that will envision our future post-pandemic. Artists serve our city at every level, leading tourism, strengthening education, fueling the economy, and ensuring our health, wellness, and imaginations. So far, Dance NYC has released the Artists Are Necessary Workers campaign video featuring members of our dance community, displaying our strength and power in numbers. We have written a letter and are now working with the Mayor's Office of New York City to insist on dance having a seat at the table. And lastly, we have curated this series of public conversations with arts workers to discuss challenges, offer considerations, and envision our way forward as a field. Our conversation today will focus on arts educators and their role in New York City and the arts, culture, and dance field. I'm pleased to welcome our moderator and Dance NYC's illustrious Executive Director, Alejandra Duque Cifuentes, who will lead us in some opening remarks and then introduce our guest speakers today. Alejandra?
Thank you, Candace. You made me laugh with that adjective. Thank you so much. Thank you to everyone for joining us today. My name is Alejandra Duque Cifuentes, and I am the Executive Director of Dance NYC. I identify as a non-disabled Latinx woman. I have fair skin, brown hair that's on one side, a brown dress with a necklace and a bold lip and filled in overgrown eyebrows. Behind me is a virtual background that is a solid color orange with the Dance NYC logo on your top right-hand corner in white. It is really such an honor to be able to host this conversation with you all and to have this array of speakers joining us today for this important conversation on arts education. And so I want to provide first a little bit of context to why we're having this conversation and why we're having it, particularly in this moment in time and in this geography. Right now, I am in my studio apartment in Regal Park, Queens, on the land of the Lenape people. And it's a moment of urgency as we think about the role that cultural workers and arts educators and artists play as we look to the future. One of the things that has triggered this series of conversations for us is the current response that our city and our state and our nation is having to COVID-19 and the impacts that it is having on not just the lives of our community, but also how our industries and our workforces will be cared for as we look into the future. One of the things of note with this is that when we received the fiscal draft of the budget, of the mayor's budget a couple of weeks ago, the budget was $89.3 billion. And within it, there was a reflection of a $267 million budget cut to the New York City Department of Education, as well as a $286 million budget cut to city agencies, which include the Department of Cultural Affairs and the Department of Youth and Community Development. And these cuts were very significant. Last week, many of you likely were a part of the public testimony provision for the city council, as it was also responding to these budget cuts and assessing how will we move forward as a city and as a state. We understand that budgetary cuts are a reflection of our multi-pronged government structure at the federal, state, and city level. And yet we also understand that budgets are documents that articulate the things that are valued and the things that are worth the investment. And so for us, this was a really chilling moment of recognition. While there will be cuts across many sectors in our city, in light of the different financial crises that this moment and the spread of this virus is triggering across the world, it is also a reminder to us of what are the infrastructural pieces that have been strong and haven't been strong for a long time. The Department of Education in New York City is the largest Department of Education in the United States. And it sets an important precedent and has set an important precedent through time and in investments in the arts. It's one of the largest budget investments in the arts of the country. The 2019 Arts Education Report showed us that there was almost every single school in New York City has at least one community partner that provides art services. And already within that, it's simply not enough. And our education, as our Department of Education, as it experiences such high levels of segregation and underfunding already, these cuts are alarming to our community. More specifically, however, what we know is that arts education is critical to the development of young people, of adults. It's actually critical at every stage of development. It's critical for our aging community. It's critical within immigrant and disability communities, within our early childhood development communities. And so all of the different parts of human development are deeply tied and nourished and enriched by access to the arts. And so what we've understood is that even now in this moment, our art educators are the ones that often provide an opportunity for folks to develop social emotional skills. They provide an opportunity for the processing of trauma, for folks being able to tell those stories, see themselves reflected in artistic work, and continue to advocate on behalf of themselves and their communities. So what we know is that when there are cuts of this size and when these different policies are triggered, what happens is that there is not only an impact to our local communities and to our students and their parents, but there's also an impact to the workforce that provides these services. As we know, many arts organizations, dance companies, and community organizations are vendors to the Department of Education, and they're also deeply connected, whether within the Department of Education or not, to their communities. They're often the spaces of safety that build hyper-local community throughout New York City. And so for us, ensuring that artists remain at the forefront of our recovery efforts is very, very important. We believe that artists are necessary workers and will be necessary as we envision the future to New York City, as we help to rebuild, and as we help to address not just the structures that were impacted by COVID, but the structures that even before COVID already were not working. And so really for this conversation, we want to look at how arts educators, teaching artists, community organizations, dance companies, and theater companies have already for a long time revealed the necessity of their work and how we will need to think about and strategize for the future to ensure that not only our young folks and our young people are getting the services that they need and that are crucial to their development, but also that our workforce is protected in that process. And so with that, I'm going to go ahead and invite our incredible panelists to join us. With me today, we have a list of great folks. We can go ahead and invite our panelists in to join us. All right. So again, so grateful to have you all with me today. And we're just let's start by just taking a moment, and instead of me introducing who you are and saying where you're from and all of that, why don't you go ahead and each of you introduce yourselves. Just tell us a little bit about who you are, what organizations you are with, or how you came to this path of arts education, and then we'll take it from there. So Nery, why don't you go ahead and kick us off?
Great, I love the unmute button. Hello, my name is Nery Fragoso. I'm currently the Director of Dance for the Department of Education. After many years of dancing, choreographing, and teaching in public schools, I became the Director of Dance 6 years ago. I identify as a Latinx, non-disabled woman. My pronouns are she and her. And I would like to acknowledge the Candace tribe that from the Brooklyn area. I live in Bushwick. My skin color is on the lighter side. My hair is dark brown. I'm wearing glasses. I can't see a thing. I'm wearing black and white striped dress. And I'm very happy to be here with all of you.
Thank you so much. Tracy, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Hi, thank you. I'm Tracy Lester. I'm the Executive Director of the National Dance Institute. I have been in the nonprofit sector for over 25 years. I'm a former public school teacher in Brooklyn, and I've been with the National Dance Institute for 4 years. I also have a long history of running nonprofits in education and human services, which has come in really handy these days as we look at what's going on with the sector. I am a Black woman. I live on the land of the Lenape people. I reside in Harlem. My skin is brown and my hair is short brown. I have a short sleeve red shirt on. And behind me is a picture on the wall that's embroidered and kind of a light lavender wall. And I look forward to today's conversation.
Thank you, Tracy. Michelle, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and your special guest?
Well, I had a feeling that they might make an appearance. Hi, everybody. I'm Michelle Manzanales. I'm the school director for Ballet Hispánico. Such an honor to be here. Thank you for inviting me, Dance NYC. I am a 40-something Mexican American Latina. She, her, hers are my pronouns. I acknowledge that I am on the land of the Lenape and the Wappinger people. Today I am wearing a black shirt, short sleeve. And I have olive skin, I have long, dark brown hair, I have brown eyes, and I'm wearing my reading glasses sometimes for this conversation. And I'm sitting in my apartment in Washington Heights in front of my closed closet doors that are painted white. And you may see some friends pass by. I have 2 cats that live here with me in the apartment.
Thank you so much, Michelle. Kimberly, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Sure thing. Hi, everyone. My name is Kimberly Olsen. I am the Managing Director of the New York City Arts and Education Roundtable. I'm also a proud teaching artist with Arts Connection. I have been teaching in New York City schools for the past 10 years. I've worked in over 50 schools, predominantly with District 75 students, so students with disabilities. My pronouns are she and her. I am calling in from Long Island City, Queens on Lenape territory. I am a white 20-something female with freckles, frizzy brown hair that is much longer than it has ever been before. I'm wearing a yellow dress with a black necklace, and my background is a white wall with a lamp on my right-hand side, and I have a wallscape of air plants. Thanks so much for having me today.
All right. Well, we have this incredible array of folks, and I was telling them before we started our conversation that part of the reason why we reached out to them is because we wanted to look at all of the different facets of the arts education provision community. We wanted to look at the folks that are working within DOE and in the trenches within the Department of Education. We wanted to look at the dance companies that have their own educational practices and also work often in collaboration with the Department of Education as well, not just in New York City, but across the country. We wanted to understand the vantage point of the teaching artist that sometimes works full-time or sometimes in an after-school capacity, sometimes in only one or 10 schools at the same time. And then we wanted to look at one of our community and deeply geographic specific partners like NDI that is deeply embedded in multiple facets of arts education and connected to a particular area in the city. So we wanted to really look at all of these points of entry of arts education as an important component of this work. So before we kick it off, we're going to go back again all around and maybe we'll go in the same order. Just want to hear a little bit about what your specific role in dance is. What does your either organization or the work that you're doing, what does it typically look like? What did it typically look like before COVID? And what have you been doing since COVID arrived in our city? I know that many of us have had to pivot our service provision. We've had to find new ways of doing our work. And so I want to hear a little bit about what you've always been doing, what your role has been, the work that your organization has done, and how it has responded to this moment. So Nery, why don't you go ahead and take it away? I don't think we can hear you. Unmute, you're still muted. There you go.
Now, good. I didn't want to bother anybody while during the interactions. As you all know, New York City public school system is the largest in the country. We have 1,800 schools and we serve 1.1 million students. The current health crisis has brought many challenges to our public school system and the families that we serve. Before COVID-19, our Office of Arts and Special Projects provided professional developments for arts educators, all kind of resources, curriculum resources for art educators. We work very, very closely with all our cultural partners to create programs, to bring the arts into the schools. The transition to the remote learning has, happened very, very quickly. And most of the DOE staff, we're still working very hard to identify major issues and to find solutions. Many of our students still don't have the necessary technology for distance learning. So that's a great, great challenge. Some households already have, who already have a computer, Wi-Fi service, still struggle with the sharing of the devices among, adults and maybe three young, learners who are also trying to do their work. But, the DOE is committed to put in place any strategies and programs to ensure that all our students can learn remotely, especially now moving forward.
Thank you so much, Nery. Tracy, can you tell us a little bit about NDI's work, what you all typically do, and how you've responded to this moment?
Sure, thanks. So National Dance Institute is an arts education program. We're not a dance company per se. We were founded over 43 years ago by New York City principal ballet dancer Jacques d'Amboise. And we, on a normal day, would have been working with over 6,500 children throughout the New York City public school system to deliver our arts education programming to the children in the schools. In addition to that, we actually have partnerships across the country with Associates of National Dance Institute, and we have some programming overseas in Shanghai, China, and Beirut, Lebanon. So we serve tens of thousands of children around the globe, but primarily our focus is here in New York City, and we do partner with the Department of Education quite closely. When the COVID-19 pandemic hit, we, like so many arts organizations, had to pivot quickly to both switch to remote work situation and also to provide programming online virtually. I have to say I'm super proud of the team at NDI, working closely with Ellen Weinstein, our artistic director. We really sort of shift things from in the school to virtually online, and we've launched something called NDI Live. Each day throughout the week, we're able to offer NDI-like programming to now, in some ways, wider audiences than just the schools, because anyone can log on. And as we all know, many of us are providing this programming free now. And so our NDI Live program has been going strong since the pandemic hit. I mean, now that we've been in this place for weeks at a time, we need to start looking forward. So it is a time for us to even recalibrate again as we think about what programming for the summer will look like, as we wait for guidance from the Department of Education so we can figure out what will happen with our arts, our school partners. And then just the expectation that we're doing this now, that we continue to do it in a way that's quality, sort of quality driven and sort of thoughtful about the children and families we serve. So there's a lot to do. And I know my peers on this Facebook Live event probably feel the same way.
Yes, absolutely, Tracy. Thank you so much. Michelle, why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit about your work?
Hi again. So yeah, Ballet Hispánico. It's a 50-year-old arts organization that was founded by Tina Ramirez. And for me, it's really the organization is all about access. Ballet Hispánico brings communities together to celebrate and explore Latino cultures through innovative dance productions, transformative dance training, and community engagement. And we live and breathe that mission through many different ways. I will start off by saying community, because it's about providing, like, taking dance and bringing it and allowing us all to come together as community. We have a community arts partnership side of the organization that goes into public schools, that goes, this is here in New York City, but it's also all over the country and all over the world. And we also have an amazing school of dance. I say that because I particularly love our school of dance as the director, where there is world-class training happening for everyone, a diverse, inclusive environment for anyone that wants to come and learn and dance with us. And then we have an amazingly beautiful company of beautiful dancers from all over that then bring the choreography to life of a diverse group of artists and present it to audiences all over the world. Before all of this happened, classes were happening daily at the school. We were working with, about 700 students, preparing for our summer programs of another, 300 or so students to come into our doors. Classes, partnerships with schools in the DOE were happening with our teaching artists, as well as classes for senior centers and community groups, just different groups that we have programs with to celebrate in community. And then the company was touring somewhere or here in New York City, bringing dance to audiences here. And now after this, or during this, I should say, it's a lot of the same. It's just turned, you know, it's a different choreography now, but we're basically doing the same thing as artists. We're shifting and figuring out, okay, with this set of circumstances, how are we going to still provide access to our, you know, to our community, to the people of color that love the arts and dance, to everybody that comes to our doors. It could be anyone wanting to dance. So now that they can't come through the doors, we like Tracy was saying with NDI, it's all about trying to figure out this new virtual world and how to stay connected, how to continue to bring performances to our audiences, how to continue to bring dance classes, how to inspire community. So yeah, it's just another day. It's just in a different way. We're doing the same things though at Ballet Hispánico that we've been doing since the beginning.
Kimberly, why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit more about your work as a teaching artist and also with the Roundtable?
Sure. So as a teaching artist, I was in 5 different schools right as the pandemic hit. And as many fellow teaching artists, all of that work was completely lost. Fortunately, I also work with the New York City Arts and Education Roundtable as their managing director. So have been able to pivot most of my energy towards supporting that organization, which is a grassroots service organization that's entirely member driven and seeking to improve and advance the state of arts ed in New York City. The Roundtable serves thousands of educators and administrators and hundreds of organizations. I'm proud to say that we have worked with everybody on this call, everyone's organization, to offer professional development workshops, to share online resources, provide peer learning spaces, and most notably now, more than ever before, engaging our network in advocacy to support arts education in schools and communities. Prior to the crisis happening, the Roundtable was planning on our annual face-to-face conference, which was going to be our largest yet of 600 attendees. Face-to-face is the largest arts and education conference in New York State. And quickly we pivoted to hosting that in an online sphere, as many of my colleagues have also mentioned about their programs. And so we're actually wrapping that up this week. We've been able to reach, I believe, almost 1,100 individuals from across the world with that program. And we found that now more than ever, the Roundtable's drive to be reactive to the needs of our membership and our community is really present now more than ever. So finding ways to keep our community connected, not only through face-to-face, but through community conversations for people to express the concerns and needs that they are facing. And also, like I said, we've really had to shift to really igniting a passion and a flame to, and also providing really the tools and resources for teaching artists, for arts administrators to provide direct advocacy to their city council representatives. And this is really where the bulk of our work is happening right now.
Wonderful. Well, one of the things that I've heard as all of you were talking about what you've been doing, the things that have been coming up, is I think the general state of affairs is that all of us are now reckoning with the new digital sphere for the engagement of arts content. And as we think about the way in which artists are historically used to creating with limited resources, right? In many ways, that is the foundation of our craft, is how can you make something out of nothing or make something with very few things. And it's how artistry occurs, right? Whether it's a limitation of space or a constraint of resource. And that isn't always an imposed constraint. It's often a chosen constraint, right? We're going to use this media or these moves or this amount of time or this kind of music or this kind of tempo or this particular move, right? And so we think a lot about how artists have historically allowed themselves to pivot in their work. How, and I'm going to open this to all of us so that we can really get this conversation started. What have you found has been the impact of this switch or this pivot into digital, both for the educators, but also for the students? What are some of the things that you're finding have been wonderful discoveries, or the ahas, or the, man, why didn't we do this before? And what are the things that are reminding us that person-to-person instruction is still necessary? So I want to start with that question. What is your experience of what is happening with the digital space?
I can respond. It's Tracy. There's so many things that happened in the digital space and that are happening. I think the first thing we found out is that we reached out to children and their families. They really wanted to hear from us. They needed to hear from us. And they were ready for us to give them whatever we could to deliver whatever kind of programming in whatever way possible, because they missed us right away, like just the connection with our teaching artists and with our staff. And so we knew that we had to figure out how to create some quality programming online. I mean, we launched an online program called NDI Live, but we also created a portal for our school partners and the children in the classes or the schools where we work. Even not knowing at that time what the DOE was going to do in terms of funding or support, we did it anyway because we knew that our partners, our teachers, needed support around what was happening during this transition. So creating programming for the classroom as well. But the other thing I saw sort of on the organization side was that staff stepped up in all kinds of ways. People who maybe had not had an opportunity to show sort of digital expertise or experience with online programming or anything like that were all of a sudden rising to the occasion, and teaching artists were stepping forward, ready to create programming and content for us to continue this, what seems like sort of there is no end in terms of what we can offer programming. So continuing to roll it out every week. We just saw everybody show kind of excitement. I mean, it could have been that people just step back from that because it's quite a stressful time. I mean, we all acknowledge how difficult it is to be quarantined at home. But what we saw were people stepping forward, ready to help. And what we saw were families and children eager to hear from us and open to new programming, however we could reach them.
Yeah, I agree, Tracy. Artists are resilient. That's been one of the big resounding things that keeps coming up over and over again. Our field of arts education is full of resilient hard workers that want to ensure access to arts education continues now and through the pandemic. What's been really highlighted for me is these habits of collaboration that are now forming between arts workers, between arts organizations that have been sprouting up on a weekly basis. Education directors, teaching artists are now getting together to share tips, resources, lessons learned, because not only are we teaching artists or arts administrators, we're now a video producer. We are now there. We've always worn many hats, but that proves now more than ever. And I'm seeing that the field is really now using this as an opportunity to growth, seeing sort of like what is next on the new frontier of arts education.
And Nery, what have you found have been the responses of some of the parents and the families? I mean, I feel like, and I want to take a moment to highlight some of the comments that have already started coming in. Cheryl, for example, has mentioned that, you know, they're looking for an opportunity to develop creative and practical ways to communicate the importance of the arts. Maybe parents might not have time for this, for the child to participate in the arts instruction, and they have to pick between, do they do the math or do they do the art or do they do the this? And, you know, so how are we, how are students and their families responding, particularly as digital both provides a point of entry and also highlights a level of inequity?
Yes. So at the beginning, I said that about, you know, devices, the use of devices is very, very challenging. Many of our students still are really not able to be connected to the internet, to be able to connect with their teachers. It's been really challenging for the parents. That's why, you know, we have been trying to, I've been working actually with a group of dance educators, very experienced curriculum writers, to create activities that we can send to the dance educators, and they can actually use those activities with students and their families. Many of these activities or projects actually involve the parents, the siblings, the family, the entire family. So everybody gets involved in the in dance. Everybody gets to dance. We have approximately 450 dance teachers who are teaching dance remotely right now. They're using platforms such as Google Classroom, Google Meet, Zoom, YouTube, Flipgrid, you name it, to meet the needs of the students and the families. These lessons are designed in such a way that allow for maximum independence. So there is very little involvement from the parent or supervision, but they have an invitation embedded in them for the family to participate and join if they want or if they can. I know that many parents like myself, we're struggling to work full time all day, and then you have a son, a daughter, children who need sometimes attention to do their work. So, we're trying to float in between those two ideas of helping students to work independently with their dance projects, but also inviting parents or siblings or family members to join the projects if they're available.
What's interesting about what you're mentioning, Nery, is that it's changing a little bit of the context of what art making and arts instruction and arts experience is, because it moves it away from maybe it needed to happen in a classroom that looked a specific way before, and that learning that art form could have either been particularly to pursue a career in that art form, but it moves that instructional moment into almost like a community space, right? When you're in the family, when you're in the living room, and it's changing a little bit how that artistic instruction is happening in relationship to family life, in relationship to education. Before I move on, I want to take a moment to shout out some of the folks that are with us on Facebook Live. I know we have Aubrey Lynch, Gabriela Estrada, Joan Finkelstein, Jody Romano, Richard, Cheryl, Sydney, Ali, Michelle, Emily Maid. We have a big group of folks that are with us, and I just wanted to take a moment to recognize you all with us. Nikki Parazio, Janita Castro, Kayla Hamilton, Lucy Sexton. It's a long list of folks that are with us. Thank you so much. Don't forget to submit your questions and your comments to the panelists on the comment section of Facebook Live. As we think about this move of arts education at home, arts education as whether or not it is necessary or essential, I think that's one of the questions that keeps coming up. Is arts education necessary? What do you all think? I ask that really knowing that all of us think that it is, but understanding, I want to hear a little bit about why you think, even in this moment that I think is a moment of stretch of collective trauma that we're living as a city, and that trauma is compounded depending on the experiences that our students have at home, depending on the needs that they might be experiencing. Why is arts instruction so necessary right now more than
ever? Well, from the dance instruction point of view, to me is very obvious, right? With dance instruction, we are attending to the social and emotional needs of our youngest dancers. When I've been all last week receiving these solo videos, 10 seconds, 12 seconds of solos from kids from first grade all the way to 12th grade. And just by looking at their faces, looking at the level of focus and awareness when they are performing in their living rooms or their bedrooms, these tiny little pieces of dance, it just really makes me understand the incredible how they're channeling all the things that they're going through dance. They're expressing what they're feeling through dance. They're trying to cope by staying connected to dance and sharing these dances with their classmates, with their dance teachers. I think it's really, really important for staying connected. Arts help you stay connected to others at a deeper level.
Yeah, I would just add to that. I mean, you were kind of talking about it before, Alejandra, when you were pointing out, you know, as we take classes into people's homes, into their living rooms, and it's becoming this community moment with their families and everything, it highlights for me the real nugget of why we dance, right? So like as we develop training programs and we have these beautiful company dancers and we do all these things, that is what's born because of that little nugget of why it is that we dance. And then Nery was just talking about the connection with others, and for me, I was thinking of the connection with ourselves. That again, that thing that's hard to articulate into words when you ask a young kid, why do you dance? Why do you like to dance? Or even when any of us is asked that same question, there's always that emotional connection to what it does for us. Like Nery was pointing out, like we're able to communicate. We're able to tap into something that is hard to articulate in words, which is why we dance and do those things. So that's really for me what this has highlighted. It's reminded me, the universe has reminded all of us that why do we do things and why do we keep doing these? Why is dance important? And it goes back to that connection for ourselves.
I think if you were to ask my colleagues at NDI, they would probably say without hesitation, it sparks joy. Because at a very basic level, I think what we're all talking about is the joy that we helped to like pop out of children. That's maybe, or, you know, it's already there. But at home in particular, when there's so many stressors going on, you know, with parents working at home and children at home, we can bring joy to them. We can bring it through this online programming, through our teacher engagement. And that's really tremendous right now. On a sort of a more macro level, I mean, we're all helping to build sort of these life skills that are so important for later life. Teamwork, like working as a team, even via Zoom. So, you know, things that they will take away even after we all go back into our building and have programming where everyone comes together. But it sparks joy and it makes them happy and it makes their parents happy. And that's really an important thing right now.
I actually must agree with Tracy. Joy is fundamental. And now I'm going to talk as a parent of a 15-year-old boy who takes dance classes on Mondays with Hannah Cullen, a very young choreographer, 2 hours in Zoom. And those are my favorite hours because I can hear from my desk in another room the thumps and the hits on the floor of his jumping and, you know, doing the warm-ups and choreographing with his classmates during those 2 hours. That's when he gets excited about learning, because the rest of the time, you know, he just does a lot of work online, but isolated from everybody else. But when he joins that 2-hour dancing class, or even with his chorus class on Tuesdays, it's kind of the same. The focus, the level of engagement is really amazing. It's very different.
Yeah, I agree. I think there is something about the arts that enables us, not only it sparks joy, but enables us to process our emotions in a different way. And a concern of mine as an educator is now and beyond the pandemic, the trauma that's going to exist in the classrooms. And that our educators, our teaching artists, and the administrative staff that is supporting these programs is going to need training, healing-based, trauma-informed training on how to help the students and communities we work with process these emotions. That's really something for an educator that isn't in the classroom right now is one of my big concerns.
So this leads me into an interesting kind of the next area that I wanted to take us in. So what are some of there's two things from this. First, what are some of the challenges that are surfacing for arts educators as they're navigating this moment? And also for the arts organizations that connect these arts educators to students as well. What are some of the challenges that they're experiencing? And as a result of that, how is this moment revealing to us what the next level of training needs to be for our arts educators as we look not just to how our young folks are getting the support, but now what are the kinds of resources that arts educators are going to need and are going to need to prepare as we look to the future? Because one of the things that feels tectonic to me about this moment is that the opening of this digital sphere that we've all kind of walked through as we are navigating this social distancing measures, it's created the opportunity where, well, for folks that weren't able to leave their homes or whose schools maybe don't have a specific dance classroom or a particular kind of instruction, they've now had access that wasn't there for them before, that we said was not possible before, is now there. If I'm a disabled student and maybe going to a dance class was not possible for me, or if I'm a disabled adult and I want to take a dance class that maybe I couldn't go to that venue, or public transportation wasn't available to me, or the amount of preparation that required for me to travel didn't make it possible for me to take class. Now that this digital sphere has created a huge door of access, I feel like what follows after this moment, once we are able to get back in relationship with each other in a physical space, there are lessons that we've learned, and there are things that we might not want to actually fully turn back. We might want to keep about how we engage in arts education in the future. So what challenges are you noticing that arts instructors are experiencing? What are some of the burdens and questions that they have? And how does that point us in the direction of what the new kinds of trainings that need to be made available are?
Many of our dance educators at the Department of Education are very savvy with technology, but others really are having a hard time, and they're growing, they're learning, they're exploring, they're expanding. And that's something that I'm really happy about, that we're actually bringing a completely new level of technology to the work that we are doing with our other students. My hope really is that we keep all those discoveries and innovations, all the new techniques, all the new strategies to stay connected with the students. Even when we go back to the classroom again, we keep all of that. It's a new layer of working that is just going to make our instruction richer. I can even have my own example. Before I used to have these newsletter for our dance educators that I would send all kind of information to them, resources that I knew were going to be beneficial for the programs. But now that all the dance educators at the DOE are teaching through Google Classrooms, I decided to create my own Google Classroom. So now I have Google Classroom for early childhood, for upper elementary, for middle school, and for high school. And I communicate every day with all the dance educators through Google Classrooms, exactly the same way that they're doing with their students. So for me, that has been a new discovery, and the way that I communicate with all the dance educators have improved. I was thinking also about something that Kimberly was saying before about the use of video. Video has become an essential element of current dance instruction. And of course, we are going through a period of really learning, trial, error, to figure out how we can best use this technology for our instruction right now. But I think that another aspect of the use of the video that I think is going to be incredibly useful to us is the idea of documentation. Because now we are videotaping constantly. ourselves, our students, the work. We are actually documenting the work that we are doing. And by documenting this work, we're going to be able to use all of that work as evidence of what we are doing during this crisis. What dance is capable of doing in instruction remotely. That has not been recorded before. We don't have any documentation of that. And now we're going to be able to have it.
Kimberly, what are you finding that teaching artists are struggling with right now?
I think one of the biggest questions I've heard come from teaching artists is, how can I compete with free? Many arts organizations have pivoted to offering spectacular content, but oftentimes that's, well, hopefully that's in collaboration with teaching artists, but then where do individual teaching artists fall if they're not directly affiliated with an organization? And they are artists with spectacular artistry, creativity, great pedagogical skills, but they simply can't sustain a career in teaching artistry without a steady form of income or steady health benefits. And many teaching artists are now reassessing, unfortunately, whether they can continue to sustain this career path. So that's been just really one of the big challenges that I'm hearing from teaching artists, and also are just a concern that our gains in equity and inclusion over the past several years in particular are being lost. And just a concern, I think many teaching artists are genuinely sad that they're not able to connect with their students. I know myself included, that you build relationships with students and with communities, and sometimes those are then severed, in this case at an instant. But really that question of how do I compete with free is one I hear echoed on a daily basis.
I wanted to just speak to more organizationally to the point around staff and teaching artists within an institution. You know, as we sort of switched to online and virtual work, I mean, it was really important for us to stay connected with our teaching artists, because they were the ones who were on the ground telling us what was happening in schools and other places. And during this transition, I feel like we became more connected to our staff. And if you were to ask someone now, I mean, we have, you know, Zoom meetings all the time and meetings all the time, but what it allows for is for people to share the anxiety or the concerns that they're having as professionals, both in the organization and in the world. And so that we stay connected with them through this time, because I think as employers, as institutions, we have to stay connected to our workforce, because we need to know how they're feeling, and how they feel comes across in the work that they create and how they interface with children and families. And so we want the staff to know that the organization is doing everything it can to sort of keep them and retain them and sort of work with them, promote them, whatever it is. And then we want our families to know that we care about them as well. And I think there's so much anxiety, and I know there are questions coming in around that. And I feel like one way to deal with the anxiety is to stay connected and to communicate openly and clearly through all of this, because we know from the media and the news that we're not getting clear, clean, accurate information all the time. So what can we do as institutions? We can help to kind of cut through all of that, deliver the best messaging to the staff and the families that we can, and even say, like, we don't know all the answers, but we're trying to figure them out. And I think to Anna's point, you know, we're constantly recalibrating. Like every time something comes up, we talk about it, and then we tweak this, we tweak that, we think of this, we think of that. And unfortunately, in a digital world, not only do people want you to present virtual programming, they want it to be fresh and new. So after a few weeks, it no longer looks, you know, as interesting as when you first created it. So now you have to think of something different that's more engaging, something else. And so, you know, it involves also redeploying staff internally, bringing people in who might not have been involved in this project or that project, helping them develop the skill sets to help with new projects, and kind of, you know, like sort of a team-based approach to addressing what is a really, you know, crazy moment in time.
And Tracy, to your point, I think, or a hope I have, is that organizations use this as an opportunity to center teaching artist voice and recognize that teaching artists come to the organization as such great assets, but oftentimes are not involved in some of the higher level conversations. And what we're seeing now from some organizations, we'd love to see it for more, of course, is that TAs are being brought in and asked, what do you think is, how do you want us to proceed next? How do you envision arts education looking in the next month, 2 months, 6 months, a year? And that is a way for organizations, I think, not only to help start to rebuild trust, but also instill that these educators are of value and their creativity and their artistry is of value to an organization.
Ali, I just wanted to add something really quick before we leave this topic. And something that's been concerning for me is just what it brings up for the very different groups of students that come to Ballet Hispánico specifically, right? So when we first started this closure and people were being laid off, just, you know, receiving emails from families that really needed, you know, like a refund of the remaining tuition, for example, on their for the remainder of the year, because, you know, maybe both of their parents or whoever the caregiver was lost their income, or people that really wanted to connect, but like given their circumstances at home, maybe there isn't that great support. You know, like we were telling the beautiful story earlier about families coming together and having these moments of taking classes and things. Well, there's families that that's not the reality. And so how do we address and take care of those students? Like, we're always focused on, like, again, providing access. And, you know, we take great pride in the fact that we try to offer as much scholarship as we possibly can. We want people to be able to dance if they want to dance. So it makes it very complicated, right? So we were talking earlier about like the free programming, right? So it's like the free programming hurts the artists, the teaching artists, but the free programming also supports those students that maybe their families are not going to support this. They don't have the means to support it. And then there's so many other things, right? Like as we go back into daily life, or go back into being able to gather and all those things, like that new normal, will this be another reason for families to cut arts out? Because it's just like for some families, it's already difficult. And so now it's even more difficult, like their focus isn't there. So for me, it highlights that need for scholarship so that we can, that need for the support from government, you know, like you were talking about earlier, like how will they step in? How will the corporations step in so that we can pay those teaching artists that are as equally important in this whole scenario, all the workers, right? This is their livelihood, this is their life, and they're wanting to connect with their students. So it's like, it's this balancing act, right? And we're trying to, you know, you mentioned earlier, make something out of nothing. Like we joke all the time about making, you know, straw into gold. Because we'll do whatever we can to make it happen, make those programs happen, pay our teachers, like all those things. But it's like, it's a slippery slope. It was already difficult earlier, and now it's just highlighted even more. And with the cuts that you were mentioning earlier, it's a really scary moment that we are faced with. So I say that because I hope that everyone listening, like, you know, taking those steps to reach out to their to the people in office to take action, take this moment also to take action, to make sure that we can continue providing dance, all of us, in our different ways that we do that.
There's a couple of things that have surfaced that answer some of the questions that have come up in the chat. And you know, one of them is that when we're looking at some of the challenges, we're looking at both the inequity that rises from unequal access to digital technology, the reality of families that potentially cannot, you know, they don't have, if they have 3 kids and 2 parents that are working from home, does that mean they have 5 computers? The likelihood of that is a no. And so how are we addressing these areas of inequity, and how that then manifests for the workers, right? We are looking at compensation models that need to be heavily assessed. We need to look at how a removal of funding from the Department of Education, or naming that artistry are not essential or necessary services within a vendor management program within the Department of Education, it sets a precedent that that kind of work is not necessary, right? And so what does that say about our policy making when we remove artists as a necessary service for the Department of Education to continue to hire and to have? We're also looking at challenges of copyright. I keep thinking about all of the different lesson plans and work that is being generated. What's happening to the copyright of that? You know, if on Instagram you use a music artist's song in the background of your video, it's taken off because of copyright, because that person is not earning you know, money from that. But how is that happening to our dance instruction? We also mentioned issues of capacity. Technology both provides speed and access, but it also gets old really quickly. So can we keep up with the demand of creating new and new and new stuff, acknowledging that art is not the moment of consumption, but requires investment in the process that develops that for the moment of consumption when that moment arrives, which is actually only the very tip of the iceberg of that process, right? And that's true both for artists working within the professional realm in terms of a Broadway stage or the Joy stage or dance space stage, right? And it's also true within education, right? To do a 1 hour class, you are prepping for 5 hours before, plus all of the years of learning, plus all of the you know, the expertise that comes with doing it over and over again. And so often what we get is we might get money for the class, the participation in the specific class, but we won't get money for the development. We won't get funding for the development. And it's surfacing some of the same issues. To answer the other question, and really as a compilation of all of the things you've all have said, as we look to higher education and how higher education has to prepare the educators of the future, we're looking at preparing educators to address digital content. How do we build within our higher education programs the skills for these educators to address and develop digital content? Similarly, how are we ensuring that our educators are also understanding the social emotional impact of their work? You have a lot of teaching artists, and this happened to me when I was a teaching artist too. We have teaching artists that are now having to address severe emotional issues in our students, depression, and they might not be trained for that. And you know, maybe they have a particular strength in the technique of flamenco, but in that movement practice or in that ability to have a moment of joy or have a moment of expression, then it triggers a variety of emotional processes in students and in families, and teachers aren't always prepared or to address that. And so what is the responsibility of our training programs in ensuring that our artistry is how do we preserve a process of art for art's sake, right, of technique, and how do we couple that with a necessity to understand the social emotional impact of that work when it surfaces, particularly as we're looking at a national trauma, right? What does PTSD look like as we address it as a collective, and the role that artists are going to have to play in that? Let's move along to think about
Alejandra, I wanted to say something about that.
Go ahead.
I'm really amazed of your capacity to create these incredible questions. I really would love to consolidate all these questions, because obviously we just began this just began. We have no idea of the answers to any of those questions right now, but it's important that we keep those questions in mind, because we have to figure it out. And we are artists. We can do it. If anyone can do it, it's us. We are creative. We are innovators. We can see things from multiple perspectives simultaneously. But I think that if we collect those questions, those very, very important questions, it can really guide our thinking and be effective.
And let's actually move on to talking about the future now. In a very real way, and without, if you had to think of two things that would happen if arts funding is cut, what is the impact of that? What is the immediate impact of that for you and for your organization? What are some of the real implications of what happens when that funding is removed?
That's a tough question, one that we don't necessarily want to think about. I mean, if you mean arts funding from the public sector, from the DOE, or do you mean just arts? I mean, we would hope,
in general.
Yeah, well, we would hope other sectors would step in, the corporate sector, or we would hope individuals would step in and elevate their giving to support us. And we would hope that people would value the arts even more. When we talk about essential workers, when you think about the phases of reopening, I mean, arts organizations are in phase 4, right? Why? Not that I want the NDI staff to come back before we're ready for them to come back, but why aren't we considered essential? Sort of why isn't this work considered essential? And if we're packaged in that way, people will value it in that way, and support will come for it in that way. So part of this ties to the advocacy work that we're talking about, and even the collaboratives that Kimberly was mentioning before. There's a lot of collaborative efforts underway, and we're all arguing for the same thing or advocating for the same thing, which is funding for the work that we do and how critical it is. So elevating awareness around the importance of culture and the arts is key, so that people see us as essential to everything else that's happening in the universe. You think of food insecurity, you think of housing, you think of job training and employment, you should think about the arts as sustaining sort of people's inner spirit and helping to spark joy and making people feel more whole. So to me, there's no like one answer to your question, but it does involve having the universe see the arts as essential to everything that's happening.
Alejandra, that question makes me think of a lot of different areas. I'll just give you a few that come to mind right now, but I do think about the impact on families. So we often think of the child that, like, you know, those classes are going to be cut, right? There's going to be less opportunity. There's going to be less support for scholarships for a child to take part in these classes, but it also impacts the family, because it's like, what happens to the mom that sends her 3 kids to take a class to support the fact that she works 2 jobs? So she no longer has that safe space because her kid didn't get the scholarship to come to take the class. Like, so there's like that impact on the family. There's that impact on the student that is, we've been talking about a lot of things that dance gives us, that, like, you know, that sense of community, that sense of being able to process. Somebody on the panel said process different things. Dance gives us so many different wonderful rewards. So those cuts mean, you know, we cut back in our programs. We don't have as many scholarships. We lose the ability to provide that safe space for people. It also means an impact on the staff, right? And the faculty. It means less work for those faculty members that have already been laid off for, you know, a big amount of time. They're already, you know, dealing with that. And so then when it is time to return, are there going to be as many classes to teach? Probably not, because of those cuts. It means that the staff that stays is more overburdened, right? Because they're still trying to accomplish the same things that they were doing before, and even now they're needed even more to support, right? But there's less resources to have a staff. So there's so that impact is happening. The dancers that have trained to be these artists, to be in these companies like about Hispánico, like, it means less cities, it means less touring, which means less opportunities, maybe fewer dancers. So then the people that are training to be dancers, are they going to want to train to a profession that doesn't have the support of like the government, of society, of the community to because will it be worth it? We all know how hard it is to be an artist. So yeah, it's when they put it into dollars and it's like, oh, they're cutting this much, you know, it's, we all know it's so much bigger than that. It goes in and out of all of our communities, of even the people that aren't in the dance classes, and even the people that aren't the actual artists. It's like all the people around them that support it. Even the entire staff at Ballet Hispánico, like who's cleaning the building, who's maintaining it, there's so many people that are impacted. So it's devastating to hear about all of those cuts. And it's definitely weighing heavy for us.
And what you're
really
highlighting, here, Michelle, is that the arts doesn't live as a siloed sector. It's interconnected and interdependent with a variety of sectors. In New York City, for example, arts and culture feeds our tourism industry. Our tourism industry feeds the restaurant industry. The restaurant industry feeds the nightlife industry. Somebody here was mentioning a comment, mentioned Jimin King mentioned that this is particularly hard for partner dancing, for teaching artists that do partner dancing, that also feed into the underground dance scene, the social dance scene, the nightlife dance scene in New York City, right? So we're talking about a multi-system, interdependent, interconnected series of industries that will all simultaneously take a hit when we devalue arts instruction and arts education. And that when we think about the economic impact, it's not just how much maybe might be made from the class, the earned income from a class that is taught, or the earned income of a show that is presented. But we're talking about how all of these pieces are a part of an ecosystem. And when we remove support from the educational aspect, we're also removing support from the very consumers that allow for the economy to function and for them to feel safe to engage in the economy. So now let's talk a little bit, let's move into the future. What do we think this is going to look like after, when we come back? What will there be field trips? Do individual teaching artists, are they going to have a harder time finding work because now organizations are preferred because of the measures that might be required by government to engage in instruction in person? What's going to happen to what's going to happen with the things that we've learned? What do you all see for the future?
Sorry. The future is still very uncertain. Actually, until we don't hear from our governor in July about what social distance, for example, is going to look like in September, in the fall, it's very difficult to make any decisions. From the DOE point of view, we have to make sure that all our students are safe, that the faculty are safe, that their families are safe. We are considering things like blended learning, maybe doing a small group rotations, visiting the school maybe once or twice per week, and then doing the rest of the instruction at home remotely. We don't know. We are like kind of testing ideas, reading, informing ourselves, trying to get as much information as we can, models that we know have been successful in similar situations, and trying to figure it out. But it's going to take a little more time to really understand what is going to be needed, for example, in the fall or next year.
I agree. I think it seems that there are people watching us from California and other places. I mean, we will see what's happening as the rest of the country begins to open up before New York City, which seems to be kind of the last one. We're also going to look to see what's happening in Europe and other places where schools are reopening, and we're going to have to sort of watch to see how that works. But I also think that we have to be prepared for different scenarios. So we need to look at what the different opportunities are and what the different challenges may be. If the schools don't reopen in the fall, what will we do as arts education organizations? How will we continue to serve the families that we're presently reaching? I think we need to look at different scenarios and be prepared to respond. And I mean, that takes resources. And in some ways, those are the teaching artists who are looking for work, who are ready and happy to support whatever organizations are looking into. So it's a tricky time. It's also time to innovate. So now that we're online, I think people are going to expect us to stay online. So, what can we do in that regard? Can we continue to offer online programming even if schools open up, and how will it be different from what's happening in the schools? Those are the questions we're going to be trying to answer over the summer, some of which we'll be able to, and some of which, may take a little longer. But we need to keep thinking about different scenarios for success. And we have to keep moving forward.
I think, Tracy, to your point as well, hearing from many of our members at the roundtable, folks are planning for multiple scenarios. And what a date that's looming is that June 30th date coming up when the PPE loan runs out. And many organizations, large and small, are using that to keep their teaching artists on staff or to keep them engaged in some way, shape, or form. And the concern is, how can we continue to be able to innovate and continue to plan for what this new normal might look like if all of a sudden that staffing ability goes away? But definitely, I think a lot of organizations are eager to keep remote learning as part of our teaching artist toolkit, as part of our arts education toolkit. It's creating a plan right now when we don't quite know what tomorrow will hold.
In the absence of a plan, you have to create a plan.
Exactly, yeah.
We do that at 2 or 3 in the morning while we're sleeping.
When we are not sleeping.
Oh, no sleeping.
No sleeping these days.
No sleeping, a lot of thinking and trying to solve all these dilemmas that are, we're facing them for the first time.
Yeah.
So,
but if I can say something real quickly, because I really want to make sure I don't finish this discussion today without thanking from my heart and from the heart of all our students and teachers, all the cultural organizations who have been so supportive for the last 2 months, sending me all kind of resources, free resources. They have been so generous. I'm really amazed and honored, really, truly, to be part of this community.
Yeah, I gotta say that one of the things that this moment has revealed, and that Sydney Mosley in our Facebook Live last week said something that was really important. She said, advocacy can't be an addition to our artistic work. It needs to be a part of our artistic work. And as we look to the future, one of the things that we know has worked now and we know we need to do more of is to continue to work in this coalition-based model.
Yes.
Yeah, I agree.
Working in silos won't help us. We need to really come together and advocate together with our joint tools. I mean, right before we had this Facebook Live was the screening of the PS Dance film that articulates the need for dance education for every child in every single school, and really starting to coalesce all of our different efforts and to make better use of the resources that there are, but also to show our strength in numbers. And so I'm going to take this moment before I hand it over to you all to say your last words, because we are at 5 minutes to 7. And I want to tell everyone that's watching us, if you are an audience member, if you are a parent, if you are an educator, or you are an administrator, run an organization, while we were in the middle of our Facebook Live today, Dance NYC sent an advocacy alert and provided some concrete actions that you can take, how you can reach out to your members of Congress right now as they think about what the different stipulations of upcoming bills will be, how the nonprofit sector and how arts education and dance and the arts are considered in the next relief efforts that are coming in. How can we ensure that our cultural institutions are preserved? How can we ensure that the federal government provides proper relief support at the state level so that our state and city budgets also do a better job at prioritizing arts education and education? So we provide some sample talking points. We provide information of how you can tell your story to your members of Congress. And similarly, at the local level, how you can reach out to city officials and your council members to let them know how important it is for you and your community that arts instruction be prioritized as we look to the many different pivoting plans that our city officials are also engaging in as we look to the future. And so we invite you to please check out our advocacy alert. It's also on our website. If you're not on our e-newsletter list, you can find it on our website, dance.nyc. Under the news section, you can find the way that you can take action today. We really need to collectively show our support for arts and arts educators, for cultural workers and artists. This is dignified labor that needs to be compensated, that needs to be budgeted, that needs to be resourced. The work that Nery just mentioned, you know, that so many cultural institutions are doing, artists, educators, etc. So I just want to make sure that you all know that even as we're talking, if you're not an arts educator, and even as we're talking about all of these issues, you as a parent or an instructor or a beneficiary of all of these offerings, you can help us advocate for this work as well, and we encourage you to. So with that said, I'm going to pass it back to you all for any last words that you want folks to go home with today.
I would just say, please collect evidence of the amazing work that you're all doing, that we are all doing. Without that evidence, we cannot show that we are essential to all our children, all our young dancers. Make sure you get media consent forms from parents, from guardians, create videos, you know, documentation of the work. And when you write those proposals, or when you write, you know, those letters to our, you know, politicians, maybe you will send also a video, evidence of the weight of this work. It's very powerful.
Yeah.
I think that now is a time for artists to do what they do best, which is to create, to inspire, to innovate. And really we can look at it as an opportunity, as if we've been given some kind of, you know, strange gift to really sort of step forward and recalibrate everything so that people come to value the arts and cultural institutions in the way that they should, and to support them in the way that they need to. So I think now is the time for us to really take advantage of this moment to change the narrative around how people view the arts.
Yeah, I'll just say, I mean, I echo all of my colleagues' comments, like, yes, everything that they said. And I will just highlight once more that I think it was Nery that was saying how the different arts organizations have been supporting each other and how wonderful that has been in this time. And I know I've been to things that you're doing over there, Kimberly, but I've attended some of your webinars. I just encourage us all to keep that spirit of community. It is easy for us. We do live in silos. It's easy for us to keep those silos. And I appreciate this community, and I'm grateful, just like Nery was sharing, for that sisterhood, brotherhood community. And I encourage us to keep that going, even when we do go back into our like, hopefully, when we are able to come back to this new normal, that doesn't die. And just the last thing I will say is, like, it's so important to use our voices, regardless of how big, small, whatever we think. If we're thinking it's, you know, we hear that all the time. It's kind of like the vote thing, but really is important for us to use our voices to support this, to support the arts, and because we know how we're impacted by it, whether that means talking to a friend about how impactful dance has been on your life or what it's done for others, or it's writing in and writing to your, you know, the politicians that are overseeing your area, or it means donating. Whatever you can do, use your voice.
And I think just to add a succinct, I guess, alliterative takeaway for me is just to center creativity, collaboration, and clear communication.
Yes.
Yes. And a reminder to all of us that artists are necessary workers. With that, I want to thank all of our panelists for joining us. I'm going to pass it over to my colleague Candace, who's going to close us off. But thank you to all of you that have joined us. Thank you to all of you that I didn't get a chance to shout out. Hopefully Candace will do some shout outs too as we close out. But we really couldn't do this work without the parents that have been carrying their kids all of these weeks, the educators that have been doing nothing with doing a lot with a lot of nothing. And to all of the many cultural workers that are also in the background who might not be in the Zoom call or might not be seen in the class, but that are helping to make this work possible. Thank you to all of you. Candace, take it away.
Thank you, Alejandra. This was such a wonderful conversation. People on Facebook have been really, really engaged. People are just so glad to be able to talk amongst other people with what they've been going through, and to hear how powerful their work is. I think we have to remember that we've been so in such small spaces for such a long time that I think it's important that we get these public platforms to talk about our work and to be reinvigorated. So thank you to everyone, and thank you to the panelists, and of course, Alejandra, for moderating. I'm just gonna jump quickly into our next conversation, which happens next Tuesday at 5:30. We will be talking about A Moment to Pause, Dystopia. And our speakers are Melanie George, Yo-Yo Lin, Keelan Arnold, and Leo Zielinska. So that's who we're chatting with next week. If you're still with us, please check out the post-event survey, which is pinned in the comments, to give us feedback on today's session. Let us know how we're doing, how we can keep engaged with you, give us ideas for future programming. So all of that is in the post-event survey. We want to thank our funders. We want to thank Brandon and Sarah for their wonderful work with us today. Thank you so much. And of course, stay with us. Follow the Artists Are Necessary Workers campaign. Share it if you can, and tune in next week to see us again. Thank you, everyone.